These are all the different solutions I've tried for organizing my paint tubes. There's everything from pre-made solutions that you can buy and implement immediately to this custom-built solution that I made to my own specifications. What works best for you depends upon if you need to take your materials with you or if you're going to use it in your studio. So let's get started and I'll cover all the different options. If I don't organize my tubes, this is what I eventually end up with. It's just a pile of tubes. There's a dozen of them here. It's not too bad, but when you need a color, you have to sort through them and find it. And sometimes you get to the color you want and it's almost out. One of the easiest solutions would be to buy a tray. They come in different sizes. I have a whole collection of these. I find you could fit about 6 tubes in each one. You could have one that has all your warm colors and then maybe another one that has all the cooler shades. I find most standard paint tubes fit in these trays. These are the tubes from Utrecht, and I have 6 tubes in here too. So that's pretty convenient because you could just stack them, and when you need to clean up, you can put those in a drawer or whatever. You could try to keep them arranged on your desk without a tray, but it takes effort to put them back in the same spot all the time. You could create a shadow board where you trace each tube and put the name of the color beneath it. That way, when you use a color, you can put it right back in the same spot. The issue with that, though, is it seems to take up a lot of space on your desk. The way that you solve that is you make the shadow board more vertical, and I'll demonstrate that solution later in the video. Another option would be to buy an art bin or maybe a toolbox. Tackle boxes would work too. So let's take a look at the inside of one of these. This art bin has a tray that you can lift out and place it wherever you need it. I have my old Liquitex soft body acrylics in here. This is the old style bottle, and I'm trying to use these up. They're about 20 years old. I store them upside down because I want the paint to drain to where I can squeeze it out easier. But you can see how you can store a bunch of bottles within here, no problem. I think this works well for bottles. Tubes are a little bit more haphazard. You could have a system for tubes on the top, but if you really want something more organized, I think I'd get one with trays that fit tubes. When you open this art bin, it's best to have the handle flat like this. That way it's easier to open up all these trays. This has slots in here, and you can put paint tubes in each one. There's more of an open space here, and then in the bottom I put my larger 5-ounce tubes. The one issue with this is that it seems to take up quite a bit of space on your desk, especially when it's completely open. But it does make it more visible because you can see all 3 trays at once, plus the bin on the bottom. And if you take art classes and you have to pack up all your supplies, it's pretty easy. It's all set and ready to go. Now here's a toolbox that you can buy online or in a store. And it's like the art bin. You can pull out the top tray. I have my watercolor supplies in here, along with a set of paint brushes and a watercolor palette. But you could put all your bottles of paint or tubes of paint in the bottom and brushes on the top. Then there's a removable tray on top for pen nibs and rubber bands and things like that, erasers. Here's another option. This is an art bin for storing paintbrushes. It had foam in there, which I removed, but it's almost a perfect size for my small tubes of open acrylics. I put this 1/2-inch wooden dowel in here, and that makes it fit a little bit tighter. I use this for when I paint outside. I like the smaller tubes, and this box I could throw in my backpack and it prevents them from getting squashed. So that's another option. You could look for a plastic bin that's almost the dimensions of your tubes. And that leads us to the custom built options. I built both of these, and of the two, this one is definitely the simplest to build, so I'll start with that one. I bought this blank sheet of plywood at a craft supply store, and I have it stored on a tabletop easel. This is one of those very inexpensive easels you can get online. And like I said, what that does is it gets it off the table and makes it so that it's more visible. This is like the shadow board that I made earlier, except that it's standing up vertically, and that way it takes up less space on your desk. So this one relies on having holes in the tube that you can hang them from. Or you could use this trick, which is you attach a binder clip to the crimped end of a paint tube. And that way it gives you a nice big hook that you can use to hang on the nail. This board is 1/2 inch thick and it's made to be used as like a plaque. This is the back side of it. You can see because there's holes in here where you can hang it from. I think after this demo, I'm going to use the other side to create something similar for my large tubes of open acrylics. So what I did is I laid out these lines and marked, I think it's 1.75 inches between each nail. So the only work you have to do is put some nails in the board. The board came pre-cut, and if you use an easel like this, you can get it pretty vertical without having to build anything else. So it does go almost vertical. And the neat thing is, many of these easels come with a drawer. You can put pencils or paintbrushes in here. So you can have tubes on top, pencils, and other supplies underneath. So this fits 18 2-ounce tubes on it. You could find a different size board or arrange it however you want. The principle remains the same. This is my favorite organizer. It's a little bit more elaborate, but I like the way it looks and the way it functions. On the back, it has a leg so that you can fold it up and store it flat if you need to. And it doesn't take up as much space because of that. And all of my paint tubes are within reach and I can see all the different colors. If you're interested in building this yourself, I have a PDF that has the different dimensions. The one thing I didn't like about the binder clips is sometimes they could slip off, especially when the tube is full, because it can't get a very good grip on that. The other issue is you have to take it off in order to use a paint tube wringer on it. So I had the idea of using nails to hang the paint tubes from their caps. This is pretty similar to how they're displayed in stores. I found that 2 finishing nails spaced about 3/4 inch apart works pretty well for the golden open acrylics, and you can also get different brands of paint on here too, such as these Winsor & Newton Galleria paints. If you build this yourself, you have to figure out what the width would be for the brand of paints that you use. The benefit of using 2 nails like this is that you don't need a binder clip, and when it's stored at a slight angle like that, the tube just slides right into place. I bought a 1/2 sheet of plywood from a hardware store. If you look for what they call project panels, you can get like a 2-foot by 2-foot panel, or maybe a 2 by 4-foot panel, and cut it down to the size you need. This is 15 by 15 inches. I took the time to add rounded corners to it just so that when you grab it, it's nicer on your hands. And I also sanded it pretty smooth and rounded the edges a little bit. After I drew out the lines and drilled the holes, I sanded everything smooth. I got rid of the pencil lines, and then I applied a coat of varnish to it. So if you want to varnish it, I think it's smarter to do it before you put the nails in. So each label has the color full strength from the tube, and then to the right I mixed it with white to give me a better idea of what the tint would look like. Underneath the color name, I have the color code for each color. So in a way, this is almost like a color chart too. I just built this and I'm finding benefits to having something like this already. For one, all my paints will be in the exact same spot every time. So you develop some sort of muscle memory for where each paint is. I also made this so each label is removable. I use thin strips of Velcro. So if I wanted to replace this purple with a different color, I could easily just put in a new label. The visibility of a display like this makes it obvious when you're running low on a color. For example, I'm just seeing that there's a bunch of these that are very low. This yellow is almost totally squeezed out. This burnt sienna is the same thing. You have a better idea of how much inventory you have at any one time. If these colors are buried in the bottom of a toolbox, you might not know that you're low on a color until you need it. So at least this way, you'll have an eye on your inventory and you can order it before you run out. Here's an overhead comparison of all the different options. I would say the art bin takes up the most room, but it's also portable, so that's the advantage. The trays are super simple to implement. You just buy a couple of them and you can get it set up right away. The only downside is, in reality, they don't stay this neat. I mean, a lot of times you get done painting and you just throw them in there and you're done. But it's much better than just having them on your desk. Between these two, the simple one is faster to build. And you also need a tabletop easel, and that gives you the extra storage space. This one has the benefit of not needing a tabletop easel, and this folds up so that if you need to store it, you can do so. If you like this video, you might like my video about my solutions to my top art studio annoyances. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.